Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking.
And Rainbow.
And Rainbow too. Sorry,
Yeah, he's
Rainbow.
thinking he's doing his own videos today.
Oh, no, no, no. I would never do that when Rainbow's around. I always want her to be on the video with me. Anyways, we're going to talk about Ancient Aliens Live, where Rainbow and I went on Friday and had a great time. And so, everybody knows Ancient Aliens, and we are going to talk about what happened there and some of the takeaways that happened there. And first of all, we're just going to kind of discuss how it was set up. So there was a panel, a four-man panel, and it was William Henry, Nick Pope, Giorgio, the guy with the real long hair, the real big hair, I guess it is, and the very long name. So we're just going to call him Giorgio. Everybody knows him.
Yeah, Georgia's last name.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't write it
Okay,
down.
all right.
Okay, David Childress and Travis Taylor, and he was via video. And so we spent Friday night enjoying the excitement of the UFO alien talk and being in the presence of some really wild and crazy ancient alien fans. But it was all good. So I kind of thought that it was more like a fan tour or a thank you tour, and maybe a little bit of both.
Well,
Uh,
Giorgio had stated that it was his way of saying thank you to all the people who kept Ancient Aliens going because it was many years that it's and I think he's an executive producer
mm-hmm.
of the show.
Right,
So it
right.
was his way of saying thank you and getting to know the people and the fans.
Yeah, yeah. No, he was really rahing it up and yeah, pumping up the crowd, etc. And they loved it. They just really they were having a great time. So, anyways, Nick Pope was the MC. Okay, so he directed the questions to the panel, and of course it was a bit rehearsed, which is fine, but it was very entertaining to say the least. So we went through and made a list together on the different takeaways, and there was probably more, but these are the ones we came up with about 8 or 9 takeaways from the show that we wanted to kind of discuss with you. But if you get a chance, though, seriously, I think it's worth going and seeing. And I think they're touring the United States. I don't know which, how
Seattle was after us.
Seattle was at. That's true,
So you can
true.
go onto the Ancient Aliens website and you can actually find the tour there.
Right, right. But anyways, so here are some of the takeaways that we want to talk about. The first takeaway, and I'll talk about this one, was that they talked a lot of. First of all, they talked a lot about Egypt. Right, it was one of their
Yeah, it's
favorite.
my great love,
Yeah,
obviously.
right. So they were into Egypt. So Egypt came up through the whole presentation. In Giorgio, I just wanted to say he was a bit obsessed with this kind of ancient wall he talked about. It perked me up right away when we started talking about it because he said this thing was made of these large boulders and it's under the sand somewheres in Egypt,
Yeah,
right?
the archaeologists can't find it at this point, but why it's so interesting, it's actually been chronicled in history. And two different scholars, adventurers, had actually seen this wall and actually described it very similar to each other. And so he would like all the different satellites to be directed towards various areas where they believe this big wall is under the sand. And the one reason, and this is something that Michael, he likes to talk about a lot, is giants. And so it's all about the panel is discussing all about how these big rocks were all aligned so close together that you can't put a piece of paper between them.
Right, right. Like the ones that are in South America, in Peru, I
And
believe they have them.
the pyramids in Egypt.
Right, right. So yeah, so he was pretty obsessed about this. He was kind of almost to a point of being upset that they haven't done this already to find this formation that's apparently under the sand and they can't find it. There's something really special about it. So, anyways, that was one thing that stuck in my mind at least. And then there was kind of this announcement from Nick Pope. I don't know if he told the world this. He may have told them, but anyways, he brought it up during this discussion that he was an advisor, kind of like it was a little bit of a secret thing, presently with the government UFO task force
Or
or
they call it
UAP. Well, they call it UAP. I think that's
They
crazy
can't
stuff.
allow UFO to be
Right, right.
out there
No,
anymore.
no,
It's
no. They have to.
unidentified aerial phenomena now.
Right, right, and that's pretty crazy, I think. But anyways, he's apparently moving up a little bit, and he's involved with some pretty important stuff. So, and then there was this talk also about the United States and probably England and a few other Western countries were starting to think about building these structures on the
Space
moon.
station on the moon.
Yeah, a space station on the moon. They spent quite a bit of time talking about this. Sound pretty interesting, and apparently this is in the planning stage, and they were
also
talking about
thinking about they'd mentioned having something that is orbiting around the moon as well.
Right, right.
And that would be included in the building of these structures on the moon.
Right.
So that's something that I guess is in our future down the line.
Okay, so Rainbow, you want to talk a little bit of Travis Taylor? He was there on a video, so we had some takeaways
Travis
there.
Didn't give new information. Of course, he wasn't going to, because obviously he'd give away, the Skinwalker Ranch show, so he couldn't do that. But I didn't know Travis was involved in. His background is very interesting, where he actually was involved in looking into, and it was part of, I guess, I don't know.
The Aerial Project. It's the Aerial.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. So he had been one of the people that was checking and looking at all the videos that were, I guess, different pilots and different people had seen. And the footages, he was talking about, a lot of the footage that they saw was legit. There's only 1% of what they looked at that they could explain it away, but the rest, he said, could not be explained. And I didn't know that about his background, so not that I didn't have respect for the guy, but I really have. I mean, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. But I thought that was cool to know his background, because I just didn't know it. But as far as Skinwalker Ranch, he did mention that they had been seeing a lot more UAPs or UFOs, depending on how you like to say it, and mentioned about things happening underground, penetrating equipment, looking at things underneath Skinwalker Ranch itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, includes the portal that's on the ranch, and a lot of other phenomena that's been happening on there. But again, he didn't really go into detail about it, but it was nice to see him on video, and I guess there will be some exciting new stuff coming up, and that's just basically a lot of what he said. As far as for Michael and I, in a way, the Skinwalker Ranch is a little bittersweet, because we'd been out there, and we were on the property by the gate, but there's a lot of area around Skinwalker Ranch, and I think the misnomer that happens with a lot of people is they think that Skinwalker Ranch is the only area that all this phenomena happens, and that's baloney. It's a lot of the plateau. It's all around it,
mm-hmm.
and it's not just that one specific area. And obviously, it was supposed to be cursed and all this other stuff, but I think that there was something there way before the Native Americans got into it with each other and cursed, the land. So I think there's something else going on there outside of that. And that's one thing that Michael and I plan to do in the future, is to actually go out to Skinwalker Ranch, and actually stay around the area, not go to the ranch, but stay around the area and see what kind of evidence we can pick up.
Right.
So it was nice to see him, but it wasn't anything brand new that he brought to the table. But it was good to see him come in.
Yeah,
via,
I think
video.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was a little bit of promo for the Skinwalker Ranch series.
And it's a good show. I mean, I recommend it to everybody to watch it. Michael and I watched it, and we enjoyed it, and of course we can look at it from a different viewpoint. But yeah, definitely, with the new shows, the episodes coming up, please go see it. And I guess Ancient Aliens they were filming their last on Friday, one of their episodes for the season. I don't know, but that's what Giorgio had stated. He said he knew that we were all die-hard Ancient Alien fans, because we were out there to go see them on a Friday night when Ancient Aliens was showing.
Oh yeah, that's true. He did
Yeah.
say that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a diehard, but it's an interesting show. Um, and then the next thing was they talked a lot about numerous petroglyphs around the world that, of course, look like grays and other ancient alien types. So that was another theme that was, throughout. Did you have anything to say about them, the petroglyphs,
Well,
since you know about them?
where I used to live in Albuquerque, on the west side of Albuquerque, there was a walk area, an area that I used to go for walks, and it's a path that's actually real sandy, and it's over by these lava rocks, and there's tons and tons and tons of these images on the rocks. And when you walk around this area, you always feel like it's an area where the aliens had been. I always felt like I was sometimes not alone. So in the Southwest, we have tons of petroglyphs, and they had actually gone out to a reservation in Arizona. I don't remember which one, but they did go out and they saw these petroglyphs that were up. And what was really interesting is depicted on this wall was a perfect drawing of a gray alien head. I mean, the almond shaped eyes and the shape of the head. And these are images that are hundreds, thousands of years old. So you know that these were images of things and beings that they had seen. So they also talked about the petroglyphs where there were astronauts were depicted in the images, where they actually had these helmets on, and they talked about that. And then I've been to Egypt, and obviously there's a petroglyph, the hieroglyphs in Egypt where they have the planes and everything carved in. So you know that they've seen ancient aliens for thousands of years. So they talked about that, and they actually. The cool thing about the show, if you haven't seen the show and you're thinking about going, do go, because they actually show video images of these specific topics that we're talking to you guys about. We actually saw the videos.
Right, right. So talking about that, an artifact, Rambo. Why don't you
Yeah.
talk about the plane artifact that they actually very close to Giorgio's heart, and they also use it for a little merch. So go ahead.
Well, it's really it's called a Vimana, which is basically, it's defined aerial or flying machine. And the Vimana is something very sacred, and I think that comes from India and
Mhm.
from a lot of the Asian communities. This particular artifact that he had talked about was, I believe, was from Colombia, and from the Quimbaya area. And there were 17 of these gold artifacts that are shaped like planes. And what was really interesting about it is that they have the double wings, the two sets of wings that our planes have today. And so experts for many years were stating that, they were depicting birds. Well, there's no bird that we know of that has two sets of wings. I mean, that's not a dinosaur or something somebody created. But they did show artifacts in museums of where the artisans knew the difference between what they were creating with these 17 gold artifacts versus animals. They when they depicted animals, they were right on the money when they carved them. So they knew the difference between the animals and people and these artifacts. And so they believe that they actually did see these, and they're made of solid gold. And so I guess Giorgio decided to make copies of these models, and then he decided to sell them at the show. But what's really cool is that they were created 1,000 years ago, and so and the Colombian artisans knew what they were creating. There's a whole different groupings of different looking plane artifacts, and some of them look like the shuttle. Remember he had talked about
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the space shuttle? Some
Right.
of them look like that. And so whether these artisans went back in time or forward in time, or if ancient aliens actually came and landed there and they had spacecraft that looked just like the shuttle, they actually created them. And these are, like I stated, they were created 1,000 years ago. So this is something way before planes were created.
Right. Right. Yeah, those are really interesting.
Yeah.
So, kind of the final takeaway, and this to me was the biggest takeaway of the night. Okay. Um, they talked about the recent disclosure. Okay, I'm not going to go through all that stuff with you because if you're a UFO fan or you're looking, you're into UFOs and aliens, you've probably been following all these kind of, I call it disclosure basically. And it's some really, things are really moving really quickly. And that was the thing that they made a really solid point on, that we are in a period of rapid acceleration and the truths are coming out very, very quickly. And they're all wondering, all these guys were wondering when the next shoe is going to drop. And they think it can drop any minute, it could drop in a week, but something big, at least that was the impression I got from listening to them, was going to happen. Rainbow, did you have anything else?
No, they were talking and saying that years ago they were just talking amongst themselves because they didn't feel like they could talk about the alien agenda or the alien topic where it wouldn't raise eyebrows. And they said now you can come out and just talk about it because it's out in the open, and that's what's changed. So it's not like a hush hush kind of topic anymore where you're considered nuts and crazy. It's something where you can talk about it because there's evidence to back it up.
Right.
So I think that there was a little bit of a mention of Jaime Maussan and the two mummified aliens. They didn't go into detail about that, but they did mention that. So that's something new that's in the news now that they actually did mention. I was expecting a little bit more, uh, maybe information like little tidbits of something coming up, but we didn't get that. They basically kind of talked about how they felt about, like Michael said, about what's happening in the field today. And then the last question that was asked by Nick Pope was basically how they, if they all met an alien,
Oh,
that
yeah.
what would they ask them? And I thought Nick Pope's question was really interesting. He said if he met an alien, he would ask them what it is that he should ask them.
Right.
And
That's
I
great.
got to thinking about that, and I thought, what if it was the alien understood humans so well and would tell us what to ask them, knowing kind of how the human mind works, and it kind of like is very, in a way, manipulative. I was thinking after I got to think about that because I thought it was really cool, and I heard it, and I went, you know what? If an alien came here, and I gave them, the okay to kind of tell me whatever, they would tell me whatever they would want me to know. So
Sure.
I think I personally would want to have questions in my mind to where I would ask aliens. I think I'm trying to think of who it was. I think that it was David Childress stated that he wanted to know how they built the pyramids.
Of course.
Because that's,
That
I
was
would be there
that was
too.
that's his big jam, right?
Well, I mean, it's mine too because
Right. I know, but
that's my big love is Egypt, and I would love to see how they did it. If they, and he said, did you actually have the ramps and have the people hauling the stones up and all that? So they made it kind of funny, which was really really nice, which I really enjoyed. But I thought that was an interesting question that each one of them had answered. I can remember those two answers. Do you remember
right.
the other two?
No, I really don't. I don't remember what the answers
Yeah.
were, but they were all good. Whatever the answers were, they were very good, and they did a nice job of it. So, anyways, anything else, Rainbow? Otherwise, I think we got it.
I
So,
think if you're a fan of Ancient Aliens, this is a good show to go see.
right, right.
The guys are very entertaining together. There wasn't a moment where it was boring at all. They were scripted and they had it down, and that was really nice. And I think that as you see them on TV is what they are in real life. They're very personable and nice
Right.
men who made a very enjoyable evening. So definitely, if you can, go see the show.
Okay. So, with all that said, thank you. Until we meet again, we'll see you. Bye bye.
Bye.